Madam Chair and members. I'm here to present Senate Bill 1389, which would require the videotaping of custodial interrogations for any person suspected of homicide. We currently provide that same requirement for those who are juveniles. The virtue of videotaping interrogations is both that it provides strong evidence to help convict the guilty, but also to help guard against false confessions. This bill will improve our criminal investigative techniques, document false confessions when they occur, and reduce the likelihood of wrongful conviction and further the cause of justice here in California. I respectfully ask an aye vote. I'm joined by the sponsors of the bill from the Innocence Project. I welcome their testimony.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Donald Anders, and I'm here to offer my full support for Senate Bill 1389. I'm a 32-year veteran of law enforcement, and I served in both the Monterey County Sheriff's Department and the San Jose Police Department. I served as a deputy chief of police in San Jose, and at one time or another, I had overall command of 3 of the 4 department bureaus, including the Bureau of Investigations. I have been a line officer, a supervisor, a commander, and an executive. I performed and I oversaw criminal and administrative investigations on a full-time basis for about 14 years. At the San Jose Police Department, we had a policy of videotaping custodial interrogations during homicide investigations. So I understand firsthand how important and valuable this practice is. Frankly, I'm disappointed that this practice is not already being used by all law enforcement agencies in California. To be fair, many departments do already videotape interrogations of homicide suspects, but a legal mandate is needed to ensure that all departments follow this practice. I support videotaping of custodial interrogations in homicide cases because interrogation of a suspect is one of the most critical elements of a police homicide investigation. Videotaping interrogations creates a record that can be viewed and interpreted at every decision-making point in the case. And for justice to prevail, prosecutors, defense attorneys, judges, and juries must be as informed as possible. Videotaped interrogations allow them to be as close to the investigation process as possible, short of actually being there. Videotaping interrogations help strengthen interrogation practices and helps to ensure that disputes regarding interrogations are resolved quickly and accurately. It provides vital evidence to determine the facts of a case, to pass judgment, to convict the guilty, and certainly to identify false convictions when they occur and reverse wrongful convictions. And the recording can be maintained in perpetuity. Memories may fade. The written word and verbal testimony are open to interpretation. But as Dan Rather famously said, the camera never blinks. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you. Others in support?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Ted Bradford. I am Washington State's first DNA exoneree. I was wrongly convicted in 1996 for the crime of first-degree rape and first-degree burglary and sentenced to 10 years in prison, which I did. I completed my sentence and was released in 2005. But I was also placed on probation. I was required to register as a sex offender for the rest of my life. The whole time I was in prison, I had continued to appeal my conviction, and in 2002, the Innocence Project Northwest, based in Seattle, agreed to take on my case, and they were able to get the testing done on the crime scene evidence, which led to my case being overturned because they did find DNA evidence from an unknown male contributor. So in 2007, 2 years after my release, my case was overturned. And I thought that was the end of, I thought the whole thing was over. I thought my nightmare had ended. Unfortunately, in 2008, the prosecutor in the case decided to retry me for the same crime. And the second trial did not take place until 2010. There were many delays from both sides. So after 14 years of living through this wrongful conviction and fighting to get back in the court system and prove my innocence, finally, in 2010, I was exonerated. I was acquitted of all charges at that second trial. Going back to 1996, I think what contributed to my wrongful conviction was a false confession that I had given to the detectives in the case that they were investigating. I remember the day clearly. It was April 1st, 1996. Just 20 years ago, just a few days ago. It was a long day. I had spent over 9 hours with these detectives in a small room, and the pressure was unbelievable. The interrogation techniques that they used, highly coercive. And I tried my best to explain to them that I was not the person responsible. And it is still unbelievable to me because at the end of that 9 hours, I finally did make a statement. I gave a false confession to be released from that room, to be free from that situation. And throughout the day, during the questioning, the detectives would repeatedly tell me that there was biological evidence left at the scene by the perpetrator. And they would tell me over and over that when they tested that, it was going to point to me and it was going to prove that I did it. But I knew that I did not commit the crime, so in my mind, I was thinking, if I give them a statement, it doesn't matter. Once they test this, it'll prove my innocence and I'll be free. Unfortunately, that did not happen. In 1996, the technology wasn't as advanced as it is today. So the test results came back as nothing being found. It wasn't until 2004, I believe, that the testing had advanced enough to where they were able to find the DNA profile, which led to my exoneration. I feel very strongly about this bill because had they recorded the entire day of the interrogation, I think the judge and jury would have been able to see a clearer picture of what happened. The police made an audio recording of the last 45 minutes to an hour, and that was only after I had agreed to make a statement. So the jury did not get to see the coercive tactics that they had used. They did not get to see the threats and promises that they had made that day. I was told repeatedly that I was not going to leave that room until I made a statement and told them what happened.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you again. deeply appreciate the depth of the harm and the wrong, and thank you for being here today because it helps us make better policy. Are there others in support of the bill? Please just do me twos.
Micah Doctoroff, on behalf of the ACLU of California, we're proud co-sponsor of the bill and strongly support.
Emily Harris with the Ella Baker Center for Human Rights in strong support.
Khalif Assagai on behalf of the California Public Defenders Association, also a co-sponsor and strong support.
Lucy Salcido Carter, on behalf of the Northern California Innocence Project, we're a proud co-sponsor and in strong support.
Alex Simpson, on behalf of the California Innocence Project, another proud co-sponsor and proudly in support of this bill.
Lizzie Buchan, Californians for United for a Responsible Budget and support.
Dennis Cuevas Romero, on behalf of the California Attorneys for Criminal Justice, a proud co-sponsor of the bill.
Jim Lindberg, on behalf of the Friends Committee on Legislation of California, we're in strong support.
Maurice Caldwell, 2011 exoneree, in support of the bill.
Are there others in support of the bill?
Hi, I'm Michelle Feldman from the Innocence Project, strongly in support of the bill. I'm from the National Project, and we work with our coalition partners in California. And just if I can say a couple of statements about the policy. So nationally, there are 19 states that require recording of interrogations in their entirety. And also the federal agencies now have a policy of recording interrogations for all crimes. That includes the FBI and the DEA. And what we're often asked is, why do we need a mandate? Why can't agencies voluntarily do this? And the good news is that there's many agencies across California that are already recording. We worked with the public defenders, and we found that there are at least 100 agencies that are recording interrogations in some form, but there isn't a uniform practice. So that means the tape can be shut off whenever, the police officer chooses to, and there's really no consequences. So this bill would require a jury instruction if recording of interrogations in its entirety does not occur, which is a much more modest remedy than some other states. 6 states have the presumption of inadmissibility. So this is really a way to establish a uniform practice throughout the state that protects both law enforcement and the innocent. Thank you.
Are there other speakers in support of the bill? Are there speakers in opposition to the bill?
Sorry, Madam Chair. Jonathan Feldman.
You can come up to the table. Are you in support, opposition?
Yes, support. Jonathan Feldman of the California Police Chiefs Association in support.
Thank you. Yeah. Others in, opposition? Speakers in opposition, please come forward.
Asha Harris on behalf of the California State Sheriff's Association in opposition. We're opposed to this bill for a number of reasons. One, while we're not opposed to the idea of video recordings, what we have a problem with is the blanket statement that goes along with judges if they say that if a video recording is not made, that there's an assumption that the interrogation should be viewed with caution. We believe that a lot of our confessions, they are obtained legally and lawfully, and so to have a statement that goes along with the judge that says that the statement should be viewed with caution, we have problems with. In addition to that, we also believe that the unfunded mandate is problematic. Unfortunately, we are already understaffed, and we also have limited resources, and so a lot of our facilities do not necessarily have the equipment to support this bill. And so we have a problem with that because there's not any money that's being backed up with this. So for those reasons, we are respectfully opposed.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Ivan Altamura on behalf of the California Statewide Law Enforcement Association, Fraternal Order of Police, the Long Beach Police Officers Association, the Association of Orange County Deputy Sheriffs, and the Sacramento County Deputy Sheriffs. We've submitted a late letter of oppose unless amended. Our issues really are many of these interrogations are custodial interrogations that take place in the state prison systems, which don't allow us to bring in recording equipment, and many are not equipped with recording equipment for these interviews that happen. So that is one issue that we need to address. We very much want to work with the sponsors and the author on the bill. Also, too, we do have some concerns, as were previously mentioned by my colleague, in regards to resources in some smaller agencies that are not equipped with video recording devices. The recommendation, one of the recommendations that we submitted in our letter was that in the absence of the ability to video record, that an audio recording would be able to suffice. And based on that, those are our recommendations and our concerns on the bill.
Okay, thank you. Senator Leno?
Thank you. If I could ask Senator Glazer a question. Is there anything in the bill that prohibits law enforcement from using one finger to push this button and just then holding this?
Senator, no, there is not.
The oppositional arguments, both fiscal and policy, are just confounding, and I say this with complete respect. The need for this bill is only because there are a very small handful of law enforcement officers that operated in the abysmal and despicable way that you had to experience, sir. And I don't know if it's any comfort to you, though I'm sure all of your loved ones have told you this many times over. I don't know that there's a person in this room who would not have made the same decision that you did on April 1st, 1996. And it's distressing that these things happen. I'm sure they're rare, but it shouldn't ever happen again. And it's because of that small handful that we need this bill. And if you don't have one of these, of course, you'll get one. I would very much like to be added as a co-author of your bill, and I'm happy to move it.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay. The bill.
I do have some concerns over rural districts and keeping the tapes on file. It's not the recording that I'm worried about, it's the custody of the actual tapes. If I could get a commitment from you to work with them to make sure that we've done everything in our power to make that as affordable, and I'd like to be added as a co-author, and I'd like to support the bill today. Is that something that you could work towards?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I also would like to be a co-author, if I may. I think that these suggestions for some of these rural, smaller counties to use audio devices if they can't get or afford video devices, I would just hope that you would entertain the idea in those smaller counties. Otherwise, I'm in complete support of your bill.
Thank you. Senator Leno.
If you could afford me just one last comment. I think we're all touched by the bipartisan support of these last two bills. And I also want to thank you, sir, for coming and sharing your very powerful story with us.
Thank you for...
But I just wanted to take a moment to say that we all benefit from the fact of the Innocence Projects around the country. They do such extraordinary work. They do it on a shoestring budget. I think almost all, if not most, if not all, privately funded. But we are so lucky that they exist because they keep our system honest.
Very true. Another comment?
Thank you, Senator Leno. And Michelle Feldman from the Innocence Project. I just want to really briefly talk about the cost concerns. The Innocence Project wanted to find out how states that have required recording are implementing it across the country. So we surveyed police agencies in Massachusetts and Wisconsin, and we heard from over 100 agencies. And most of the agencies, many of the smaller agencies with under 10 officers, used handheld digital cameras that you can purchase at Best Buy for $50. Of course, you know, if you want a higher tech system, a lot of agencies, we heard from about 30% of those small agencies that had equipment sharing arrangements with larger departments that were close by if they wanted a more high-tech digital management system. And of course, with the proliferation of body cameras, that's another common tool that's being used by agencies to record the interrogations. And in terms of storage, many of the smaller agencies were just copying the videos onto CDs and attaching it to the case file like other kinds of evidence. So I just wanted to, make that clear that most of the agencies that are actually doing it in the states that require the practice have found it not to be burdensome, and actually it's cost saving because it's fewer lawsuits stemming from wrongful convictions and fewer allegations of officer misconduct, and also fewer pretrial hearings on motions to suppress, which just makes the system operate more efficiently.
Thank you very much. Well, Senator Glazer, would you like to close?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I certainly want to thank Ted for his powerful testimony, and as Senator Leno indicated, we all share the power and sadness at what he went through. I'd like to thank Don for his testimony. Many law enforcement members have come forward to provide testimony about the value that this would bring, and your testimony was very much appreciated. I want to note the Police Chiefs Association's indication of support, and they represent a lot of these rural communities where this concern that's been raised about equipment and storage would be felt. I would, in closing, just note that we currently provide this requirement in law for juveniles. That equipment is all there in place, certainly in the counties, and would need to be enhanced, but I think the costs are minimal. Happy to work out those issues as they come forward. And with that, I asked, in the pursuit of justice, to ask for your aye vote today on this legislation.
Thank you. Please read the roll.
Hancock.
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Anderson. Aye. Anderson, aye. Glazer.
Aye.
Glazer, aye. Leno. Aye. Leno, aye. Liu. Liu, aye. Monning.
Aye.
Monning, aye. Stone. Stone, aye.
7-0, that bill is out. We do have a few add-ons. So on item 1, SB 821 by block, chair voting aye. Senator Liu?
Liu. Liu, aye.
And item number 6, SB 966 by Mitchell, chair voting aye, vice chair voting no.
Glazer.
No.
Glazer, no. Liu. Liu, aye.
That bill passes 4-3. Item number 7, SB 1036 by Hernandez. Chair voting aye.
Liu. Liu, aye. Monning.
Aye.
Monning, aye.
Consent calendar.
Glazer.
Aye.
Glazer, aye. Liu. Liu, aye. Monning.
Aye.
Monning, aye.
Consent calendar passes. The previous motion passed 7-0. Item 9, SB 1075 by Runner. Chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye.
Stone. Stone, aye.
7-0, that bill is out. And the rest of the items, oh, no. Item 11, SB 1134 by Leno, chair voting aye, vice chair voting aye.
Stone. Stone, aye.
7-0, that bill is out. Item 13, SB 1332 by Mendoza, chair voting aye, vice chair voting no.
Stone. Stone, no.
5-2, that bill is out. That concludes the agenda, and the committee is adjourned.